Welcome to Frankfurt, where we're having a look at the Kia EV9, which is a massive vehicle in many senses. Massive physically, it's over 5 meters long, over 2 meters wide. This is a big car, and there's a particular reason. It's first and foremost designed for America, and SUVs there generally cost over $100,000. But this is different because this is an EV, and Tesla had the Model X market kind of sewn up to themselves for a long time. But now Kia have their eyes set on not just Tesla, competition from Mercedes in the EQS SUV, the EX90 from Volvo, and many more prestigious brands. So they're making sure this can put it up to the more premium brands in the States. Not just there, however. This car is obviously a worldwide vehicle. It will be coming to Ireland. Some of the top line stuff, it will do a charging top up of about 250 kilometers in 15 minutes if you find the right speed of charger. It can do 800 volt charging, so future-proofed in that sense. Before going further in the video, just to mention our current partnership with Nevo.ie. They are Ireland's only dedicated EV platform. Browse every electric vehicle make and model on Nevo.ie. You can view each model in different colours, learn about the specs and features, and watch even more EV reviews. You can compare your favourite models with the handy comparison tool and plan your next trip with our EV Journey Planner. Head over to Nevo.ie today to learn more. It has 15 sensors around the car, which can project a 3D image of what's in front of the vehicle into the driver display, which allows this car to do level 3 autonomous driving. Now, I don't know when we'll be allowed to do that in Ireland, but for example, in certain markets, this car will be able to change lane on a motorway, and you'll be able to drive along with your hands on your lap or somewhere else because you don't need them on the steering wheel. Now, again, certain markets, different to Europe, there's an additional light display here. It's been removed on European cars for European regulations because the addition of light there was a danger to pedestrians. So on the European version of the EV9, you're just getting these headlights, which if it didn't show you an image of the other version, you kind of wouldn't even notice them. Down here you have an opening for airflow, access to air curtains here on the vehicle. They come out the side, and very curved around the front to assist with aerodynamics. In fact, it's 0.28 drag coefficient, which is not too far off a Kia EV6. And you think of that design of this car and the shape of this, and that's quite impressive how they've managed to achieve that. One of the ways is the roof, which actually, when you look at it closely, just kind of dips down at an angle, but not something you might notice straight away on the car. Now, there is a cheaper version of it. This is the GT line. Think of it in the kind of K4 sense of it. A couple of images of that vehicle here. There are some differences on the exterior of the vehicle. These mirrors, for example, inside and out for screens are an optional extra. You'll get standard mirrors on the standard car. So ruggedness is visually aided by this kind of two-tone over the front wheel arches, the rear wheel arches, and the side of the car. This was a prototype pre-production colour. Ocean Blue is the name of it, but you can get it in the finished article of the car. It will be an optional extra. That ivory grey as well, which you may have seen on my channel on the Kia EV6 GT version. You'll be able to get that in a high gloss and a matte finish also. Doors can be opened with a digital key. In essence, your phone is all you'll need, and you can also share that key with family and friends if you're happy enough to let them borrow your very expensive EV9 for a day trip. The all-wheel drive version, there's two modes of drivetrain. So you've got rear-wheel drive with 204 brake horsepower, and then a fairly impressive 380 plus brake horsepower version in all-wheel drive. That version will be able to tow 2,500 kilos, which is going to turn this thing into quite a large mini truck sailing through the roads if you did tow that much in the back. Criticism of some vehicles over the last few years has been just the disappearance of the rear wipers. Not so in the EV9. I did at first glance this morning say, don't tell me they've done it as well. They haven't. They've hidden the rear wiper up here under the spoiler. so you'll still be able to clean that screen. Also, a fairly discreet camera is up here. The kind of shoulder lines, as they describe them, of the car, they're a little bit lower down, so it kind of gives you the impression of the kind of a lower center of gravity in the car. Also, it does sit lower than that size of vehicle. Typically might sit something like a Cadillac that you might see Tony Soprano drive if he was still alive. Let's not get into that, but to assist with aerodynamics, the car does sit a little bit lower. And the tail lights and many angles of the design of the car are designed first and foremost for aerodynamics and just to not have sort of air splitting as the car cuts through. Your charging port is on this side of the vehicle. It's understandably CCS through DC, and you can access it here with the touch of a button. Easier to use than the EV6 also. So you'd have 11 kilowatt, 800 volt charging, as I mentioned. And here's an interesting thing, not currently in Ireland and not currently in many countries in Europe, but in the Netherlands, you can do car to grid. So if you're familiar with selling back via solar panels to the ESB or however, you'll be able to do that directly from your Kia should you wish. Idea being, if this 100 almost kilowatt hour battery is sitting in your driveway, you're not going to use all that, but you have got it fully charged, why not make some money directly from your car, which is an interesting way of doing it. Sitting on 21-inch alloy wheels, they're obviously optional extras. And the other interesting part of the exterior is this huge amount of glass. A very expensive thing to put onto a car. You can have frameless glass, which is cheaper, but the B-pillar and just the joins in the door assist an awful lot with keeping outside noise, road noise out of the vehicle. So that idea of just having a fairly seamless run through from front to back of glass also adds to the vehicle. So let me know your comments and physical size of it. What do you think? I mean, look, by American standards, it's not a massive car. By Irish standards, it is a massive car. So it'll be interesting when this is on the school run, or you're just trying to park this thing in a shopping centre car park, because the spaces can be quite narrow. And the last thing you want to be doing is taking up 2 spaces with your lovely EV9. Just to give you an idea of the boot, even with the 3rd row of seats up, and it's an optional 6-seater, it'll come as standard with a 7-seater. So if you go for 6, there's a slightly different seating configuration, get to that in a second. There's still a good boot space here. A lot of 7-seaters suffer from the fact that if you do have that 3rd row back, this becomes incredibly small, maybe 100, 140 litres. Not the case in the EV9. You've got loads of charging options, so you've got a plug on this side of the vehicle. There's a 12 volt, shopping hooks, all the practical stuff that you'd expect a family car of this size to have. But also under here, you can store your parcel shelf. It fits beautifully in there. Something I noticed today, and it's kind of like they've just stuck it on, but it's actually a good idea. There's a hook on this, and if you were getting something out from here, let's say you have a flat tire, you've got kids screaming, it might be dark, whatever it is, and you're trying to get access to the pump here and the compressor, you can just hook this on to the back of the headrest, and that holds it up. And it's just simple, but it's like, yeah, that's good. I don't know who thought of that. Somebody surely in here did and said, can we just put a screw with a hook on? Very primitive looking for such a fancy car, but actually just works. If you want to drop these seats, quite easy to do. Just pull onto this, drop them down, and it's a very quick maneuver to do it. Same way to also get them back up. But the 2nd row seats in the EV9 is a very interesting place to have a chat about, and that's where we're going to head right now. We don't, as a time of filming today, have the price of the car, so that also translates to the fact that I don't have a price for a 6-seater version of the EV9, but should you go for it, you'll get these type of seats. So they have their own armrests, they have Isofix in all the seats at the back of the vehicle actually. And as you can see, this seat is facing this way. So there's a lever here, and you can turn the seats to up to 180-degree angles. Idea being, you might want to feed a child from the front of the seat. You might want to help somebody getting in and out of the vehicle. Maybe they have reduced mobility and things like that. You can also, with a lever, just how much leg room is going on in this middle row. And even with a decent amount of leg room here with a flat floor, if you're in that third row of seats, there's still really good foot space. And Kia have cut out space at the base of the seat so you can still slide 2 feet under. And that's kind of another thing of SUVs, 7-seaters. Sometimes you're kind of trying to twist your knees, twist your feet to fit, but they do fit really well under here. Also, haven't forgotten about the extra row of seats. You also have USB-C charging ports at the back. And if you go for the optional glass roof, loads of light floods in here. Interesting air vents for assisting with airflow in the back so you don't feel claustrophobic and stuffy, and then you've got your own individual climate control up here. And if you are maneuvering these seats, there's plenty of options. There's electrical assistance, there's pulleys that you can pull to pull the seat out and give yourself extra space. So loads of configuration settings in this middle row of seats and still decent space in the back. Something else in the GT version of it are window blinds, just to keep the sun out on those hot days. There's really good quality finish to the doors, really solid thud when you close them. We'll get into the fit and finish of the interior up front. 728 litres is the boot, 333 litres if you have that third row of seats up. Some other features as standard is battery conditioning, so if you put a charger destination into your inbuilt sat-nav, the car will ensure it's at the optimum temperature for charging using fast charging. You can do up to 250 kilowatt charging using a DC. There's also over-the-air updates, and in theory, even if there's a different software platform down the road, your 2024 EV9 will be able to update it over the air. The vehicle to load will do up to 3.6 kilowatt charging speed, which will charge pretty much any household item that you're going to want to charge. And you'll be delighted to hear that a heat pump is standard on the car. In fact, some videos we were showing today shows the EV9 being tested in really cold conditions, snowy countries, Canada, part of the Nordics, where they expect to sell lots of this car, but obviously the battery temperature has to be able to perform in those colder conditions and still deliver decent efficiency. Inside the EV9, the first thing you'll notice is the quality of the materials used. It's really well put together, lots of ambient lighting, good quality fit and finish to the plastics. Some of this is from recycled PET bottles. There's fishnets, old fishnets used in the carpets. Further plastic, recycled plastics used in the finish of the seats. So there's a lot. There's up to now, from now on with Kia's vehicles, they'll have at least 10 sustainable kind of must-haves in the car. So whether that's from the ocean, bits of plastic, the idea is to recycle as much of the materials and put them into the car as possible. Some things that you won't have seen before is this steering wheel. It's slightly different, quite like an Audi Q4 steering wheel actually, just with the spokes here on it. This is different as well from Kia. So you've got an EV start button here and the gear selector is down here, which is a little bit different. There are haptic buttons, not quite Volkswagen haptic buttons however, so they'll come on and off as needed. They're there, so there's some shortcut buttons for climate control, for fans. There is a lot integrated into screens however, so you've got actually 3. This is 12.3 inches for the instrument display. This is a shorter one, it's just over 5, and then you're back to 12 for your nav, your infotainment, and that's all quite familiar to a typical Kia setup. Loads of charging options down here. There's huge space for storage. You've got a flat floor to the front of the vehicle. Again, we've seen that in the EV6, but it has been brought through. I asked the head designer what one of his favorite bits of the car were, and it's these net headrests. So they're actually off the back of your typical office chair. They're not in the rest of the vehicle just yet, and one of his wishes is that they will be in the vehicle at a later date, whether that'll be a midlife update or whatever. But yeah, if you ever sat in an office chair for your back support, this is now kind of springy and adjustable for the back of your head. Also, this center column into the back has a little bit of a retracting extra storage bit. The whole thing doesn't slide like you've seen in something like the Ioniq 5, but there is space there for the back should you need it. Space for your phone for charging, huge drinks holders. Again, the American market very much at the top of Kia's mind here when they're doing it. And then depending on what market you're in, there is a Meridian system that is also available on certain trim specs. Huge seating position, loads of visibility. Here are the optional cameras. Looks like good resolution. It's very bright in here though because we're in a studio today. At night time that may be a little grainier. And the same with the video stream that is able to be viewed in your rear view. If you just want a standard mirror setup though, you can just flick that off. So there's always a backup system there. But much like, I suppose my surprise with the EV6 when I sat into it, we were used to things like the ID3 and suddenly it felt like the interior was a bit of a step up. It's not quite at Lexus or Audi or Volvo levels, but it is a very decent offering with really good fit and finishes to the interior. And there's, you know, a general huge amount of space for passengers. Also on certain models, this one has it, there's a retractable foot support and leg support. So this seat goes massively back. I'm trying to see if I can find the selection for it. And the idea is you can really lie very, very far back in the seat. If you're charging, you might want to have 40 winks or whatever. And then the back of this seat also rises up to support a kind of a limousine style seat for your front driver and your passenger. So good place to sit, high up seating position, loads of screens. You kind of wonder, do we need the amount of screens that we have? And plenty of options to be accessed from your steering wheel, so you're not going through loads and loads of menus. One bonus in the EV9 of going for the rear wheel drive is a bigger frunk. There's a frunk in both versions of the car, but the rear wheel drive is so deep, they've included an automatic button here that lifts should someone get trapped inside. Now, you'll still fit Type 2 charging cables and stuff like that if you don't want them in the back of the car, but bigger size boot, frunk, in the rear wheel drive version of the EV9. Kia's plan is to have a 70% sales target of all cars by 2030. 70% will be battery electric vehicles. This is going to be a big part of that, and they've well over a dozen vehicles coming in the next few short years. Question really is going to be, how much will this vehicle retail at? We don't know just yet. If they were to go into the American market, for example, at $80,000, it'll sell all day long. The thing is, there's so much tech in this. There's so much future proofing in it when it comes to charging, level 3 autonomous driving, the mirrors, lots of things that just aren't on cars yet today. This is essentially like a look into the future in something that is really, really big. So I just don't think it's going to be possible to sell it at that price. And then closer to home, obviously, is the top spec version of this car going to be 90,000+ euro? And yes, it will deliver hypothetically over 500 kilometers and do everything you'll ever want this car to need to do, but it probably will end up being the most expensive Kia that has ever been on sale in Ireland. That said, there's a massive demand for these size of vehicles. It's funny in a way that, you know, over the years mobile phones got smaller, and for a while cars got smaller, and now they're just getting bigger and bigger. And my experience of driving cars of this size, things like the Ranger Raptor, there are certain circumstances in just real life where you're getting a few kind of, do you really need to be driving that? And I've no doubt, I mean, look at the absolute size of it. It is a huge, huge vehicle. People today describing it as a tank, and that's what it is by Irish standards, maybe not for the US market. But Kia have massive market share in Ireland. It is a really, really popular brand. So if it's priced at the right price point, I do think it's an area that is still underserved. Electric 6-7 seaters, there's just not enough of them around. So with that in mind, it could be a massive one. We're not going to see it really in Ireland until 2024. We'll get to drive the car hopefully later on this year. We'll let you know about the efficiency of it. The drag coefficient is definitely interesting, but I need to know what it's like kilometers per kilowatt hour, because that's the interesting thing, because it's just so big and in line with it, so heavy. Thank you very much for coming with me this far today in the video. If you do want to support the channel, you can hit up buymeacoffee.com/nobbyOnCars, and I'll talk to you on the next one.